I'm Fadia Desmond, and I'm a proud 1995 graduate of the STEP program. I have a lot of fellow STEP alums out there. I also serve as a volunteer chairing the GSE's Alumni Awards and Recognition Committee. I've had the honor of working for several years with an incredibly talented and devoted group of GSE alumni and several faculty members. We have a very challenging but extremely rewarding responsibility, and that is in reviewing all of the nominations that come in for our Alumni Excellence in Education Award. I'm also here to introduce our Dean, Dean Schwartz. Dan is the I. James Quillen Dean of the Stanford Graduate School of Education and the Nomalini and Olivier Professor of Educational Technology. A member of the Graduate School of Education faculty since 2000, Dan studies student understanding and representation, and he is a leading expert in the ways that technology can facilitate learning. In fact, he was the first scholar to take findings from neuroscience research and use them to change classroom practices. His work is grounded in practice from his career as a teacher. He is a world-class researcher whose scholarly work is cited over 1,000 times a year. He's highly respected by his GSE and Stanford faculty, who view him as a leader with deep integrity and compassion. He truly cares about creating meaningful learning experiences that are satisfying and empowering for all kinds of teachers and students. Please join me in welcoming Dean Schwartz.
Thank you, Fadia. You forgot the part where I tell very bad jokes. So good evening and welcome to our annual celebration of the Alumni Excellence in Education Award. So I'm the master of ceremonies of this wonderful night. It is a wonderful night. And so Kimberly, Joyce, Bernardo, congratulations, and Kirstin, we're glad that we're going to be able to finally hand you an award. So we'll talk more about Kirstin in a little bit. So last year was the 100th anniversary of the school, for those of you who didn't know. And it occurs to me we better be here for another 100 years because the list of amazing nominations for the Alumni and Excellence Award, it's going to take us 100 years to clear it off. It's really an amazing list. Unfortunately, I do a little math, and I know that the list is only going to get longer, so the next 100 years won't be enough, but that's okay. So this is my fourth year presenting these awards. It's one of my favorite events. It's the event that convinced me to put an initiative to bring our alumni closer and bring value to our alumni. And so this year I was sort of wondering why it's such a great event, right? And it's rare that you get this many people together and they're all happy for one another. And they're all proud, right? So I was trying to figure this out. So the pride isn't quite the right word. So it's not like you're a parent and you're proud of your children, right? That's sort of not the relationship we have with our alumni. They're colleagues now. And it's not like pride for your sports team where you go Warriors and you cheer for them because they're not of you. You're sort of just cheering for someone else. And so as I was thinking about it, I realized metaphors just aren't as good as the thing itself. And so the thing itself is it's a gathering with fellow alumni. And these are shared experiences, shared institution, shared causes, shared crazy professors. So that's a unique thing, and I love it, and it's what makes this special. So tonight, we honor three very exceptional alumni among our many, many, many exceptional alumni. And so over the past year, the GSE and Stanford have separately been charting the great challenges and opportunities that are worthy of the great faith and resources that society bestows on research universities. Right? Society trusts us to do a great deal for them. And so the amazing thing is the overlap between the vision of the university and the Graduate School of Education is spectacular. There's tremendous overlap. And you'll learn about this in the coming months, but it's very heartening. They're also oddly overlapping in vision statement. So this is what Stanford says, navigating a dynamic future. This is what the GSE says. We envision a world where all learners are prepared to thrive in a dynamic future. They stole dynamic future from us. And we will have our vengeance. So why is this relevant to our exceptional alumni? Their work made possible the belief that we can achieve grand challenges that sit at the center of human need and possibility. These alumni set the stage for our vision, right? They're the reason we believe we can pursue a vision of education that helps all learners thrive. They're also the proof that Stanford educators can make a difference and improve lives. Their contributions prefigured our strategic ambitions, and we're thankful and pleased that we can honor them this evening. So thank you. So in addition to our honorees, I'd also like to thank some others. This award cannot happen without a tremendous amount of community support. So first, the key to being a good dean is people. It's the people who make it happen, right? It's not the dean, it's the people. And this is the brainchild of a group of GSE alumni who wanted to shine a brighter light on the many ways that Stanford GSE alumni are advancing the field of education. And so the key is you find good people who want to do good things and you let them go do it. And this is a great example of that. So each of this year's nominations was reviewed by 3 faculty members and 3 alumni committee members. So can I ask the Alumni Awards and Recognition Committee to stand, because it's a lot of work. Thank you. You'll be getting a pin soon for you. Also, Kirstin, who's sort of, she was here last time, but she wasn't. I'll explain in a second. She's back, and so 2 of her fellow honorees from last year are here. This is Jeff Gilbert, the principal of Hillsdale High School, and Gary Mukai, the director of the Stanford Program on International and Cross-Cultural Education. So Gary, Jeff, thanks for coming back. And a special thank you to Angela and David Philo of the Yellow Chair Foundation. They've championed this award, and their commitment to educators, especially those working with underserved students, is an example that should inspire all of us. So, and finally, thank you for being here to honor everybody and one another. It's really wonderful. So now I switch into my role as introducer of introducers. I'm the second of the introducers. So now I'm introducing myself as the introducer. My name's Dan Schwartz, and I'm going to introduce Kirsten Millets. So she's our first honoree tonight. She wanted to be here a year ago. She even made it to the Bloomington, Indiana airport, and then after receiving a call from her doctor, she's advised to avoid the North Bay folks' smoke-filled air. So she, her husband, and her infant and her toddler had to return home. She delivered her thank you speech on a giant screen. I don't know that she knows that her face was about 7 feet across. It was a wonderful speech. So we're pleased to welcome you back to the GSE and to present you with the award. Just as a reminder, Kirstin holds a PhD from Stanford in biochemistry and a master's degree from the Stanford Teacher Education Program, STEP. She devotes equal time to her introductory science and AP biology courses in Bloomington, Indiana. In collaboration with her students, university faculty, and teachers across the country, she designs authentic science experiences for high school classrooms. Millets inspires the hundreds of educators she partners with to elevate their practice and improve learning for all students, creating potential for the next generation to answer the scientific challenges of our time. So please join me in thanking Dr. Millets for her service.
Only for a minute. I'm Kirsten Millets. I'm so thankful and so honored to be here and to be of you and of the work that you are doing to change futures, to change our future as a nation, to change our world's future. And one thing I'm especially thankful for of my time at STEP that I didn't understand when I was here is the way that seeds get planted here in the Graduate School of Education that can bloom way down the road. I think about my student teaching at Jeff's High School and how I did not understand the power of your leadership until I got old enough to be able to look around out of my own daily grading practice and see the importance of that in that community. I think about the lessons that Jeannie has taught me about reaching all students and about how I didn't really start to take advantage of those until I had students that I was struggling to reach. I want you to know that if you are working in education, that your work matters, that I find as a classroom teacher, I find myself turning to research and theory and practice as much as I find myself turning to the practical knowledge that teachers build from being with students. And I think that right now, teachers are at a pretty unique position in our culture in America. There are a lot of people in American culture who are disagreeing very openly and very vehemently about a lot of things. And I know for many of us, regardless of what your political beliefs are, that can feel really frustrating. And the interesting part about being a teacher right now is that teachers have this extraordinary agency to make our classrooms reflective of what society could be like. And a lot of what I do in my classroom to try to do that, I learned here. So thank you. Appreciate it.
So I think I'm just going to hand the mic over to Kirsten. She can take the rest of the night. It's very powerful. Thank you. Okay, so now I switch my role as introducer of introducers. And it's my great pleasure to introduce Amato Padilla. Amado and I have known each other for quite a while. He's been a professor of developmental and psychological studies in education since 1988. Yeah. As Kimberly's doctoral advisor, Amado quickly recognized in her a kindred spirit, someone who would be a lifelong advocate for our most valuable, vulnerable, and marginalized learners, someone much like himself. So Amado, please.
I'm very, very proud to be here. I'm very proud to say hello to each and every one of you, and I'm very proud especially of Kimberly. As Dan mentioned, I've been here since 1988. I'm not exactly sure when I met Kimberly. Kimberly was a graduate student before I got here. Somewhere along the line, we met each other and we began to have conversations. And one of the things that became clear very quickly is that Kimberly and I had at least some common interest, and that was on resilience with respect to marginalized children, minority children, children who had many obstacles to overcome and who somehow needed our help and all of our help to overcome those obstacles and to become resilient educationally and to go forth in their life. And Kimberly was very clear in that. What I also remember about Kimberly is that she had a very soft smile, a very soft voice, and just a twinkle in her eye. And I used to see her on this campus. I used to see her in this building. This building was very different in those days, but I would see her, and I always enjoyed our conversations. I don't know that we really had any classes together, because by that time Kimberly was pretty far along the line with a lot of her coursework, but we did have a kindred spirit with respect to some of the interests that were common to us. I'll share two experiences with you that I remember Kimberly especially. I remember we had a conversation once, and I don't know if Kimberly remembers this, but Kimberly shared that she had difficulty on this campus finding a place to worship, that she had to find a place where she could go to church where there were people like her who celebrated God and spirituality in the way that she did. And I guess you went you found that in East Palo Alto. And I was touched by that, because in studying resilience, spirituality is very, very important as part of how we develop our resilience. It's not just the supporters, it's just not the teachers, but it's also the spiritual people that help us develop the spirituality in ourselves to go forth in life. And Kimberly, I was just very touched by the way she expressed herself of needing to find a spiritual place with people who were like her, who shared in her spirituality. And I found that very, very touching and very, very moving. Another experience that I had with Kimberly, and I don't know if Kimberly remembers this, I had a very, very early telephone call from Kimberly. And she said that she was lonely. And we had a conversation on the telephone. And I don't know that I could help her with her loneliness, but we talked a little bit about it. But it also left me with the understanding, you know, our students, no matter how resilient they are, no matter how strong they are, no matter how powerful they are intellectually, we all have weaknesses. We all have times when we're lonely and we need other people to support us. And she may not remember that telephone call, but she did reach out. We did have a quick telephone call. But that was another thing that brought us together. Kimberly is a very, very caring person. She has taught at all different levels. She is mentored at all different levels. Has written textbooks. She's written a book recently about how do you become a early childhood education specialist, the different avenues of entry into the profession. She is a person that really will bring much to our field and has done much to our field, and she still has many, many years ahead of her. And thank you very much, Kimberly, for all the work that you've done for all these years, for so many people that just love and care for you in lots of different ways. Thank you.
First, I want to thank God, my mom, Dr. Amato Padilla, and Dr. Diane Lee. I want to thank God who makes all things possible. I thank my mom, Mary Duncan, because she taught me to value education and to love helping other people. I thank Dr. Padilla because he nominated me along with Diane Lee, and they are very supportive friends. I also thank everyone who is involved with me receiving this award, but there are too many people to name. Now I want to begin my speech talking and focusing on the good in others. This will be followed by how much we should give back to society as other human beings. To begin with this quote, "Whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things." This quote means you should focus on the good in life, and most importantly, it means focus on the good in people. This quote really applies to people who are different from you in some way that you may not be able to understand. Find loveliness and virtuousness in people who are different from you and think on that. This is not easy to do. I began thinking about differences when I was on Stanford campus in the late 1980s. My experiences at Stanford Graduate School of Education taught me that it is important to appreciate, celebrate, and respect differences. Back then, it was already a diverse place, and we were challenged to learn about each other, accept differences, and be fair. Stanford set me on a quest to do two things: help others who seem different than the norm, and teach others to appreciate, celebrate, and respect differences. I will likely stay on this quest forever. I invite my Stanford family and those in attendance to come on this journey with me. So what am I doing? I want to help others who are different and marginalized in some way. This was first demonstrated to me by my mom. She helped others even though she was raising my brother and me in impoverished conditions. So now I help others and I follow her example. Which brings me to another quote. To whom much is given, much is expected. How can a middle-aged African-American female raised in poverty have much to give anyone? I have my faith, my intellect, my perseverance, and my wisdom gained from the school of hard knocks. I have a wealth of experiences that have given me a full life. So, of the best of those experiences, some of them I found right here at Stanford, interacting with the professors and my fellow students. I have skills and knowledge from my many, many years of education, and therefore I have much to give others. So with the plenty that I've been given, I help others, especially my students. At Stanford, I'm known to say that I give birth to 100 or so students every semester. And one of my students said to me, "You are a good professor, and you are trying to mother us all." As a professor for more than 26 years, I have worked with plenty of marginalized and under-resourced students. According to current statistics at Sac State, approximately 10% of students are homeless, 46% are food insecure, and 10 to 12% are seekers of emotional and psychological counseling services. As a body of educators, we have many students to help and a lot of work to do. One of our main tasks besides teaching is to mentor our students, provide them with advice and emotional support. We also have to help them see their own strengths and build their personal agency and self-efficacy and resilience. This is what I do on the job each and every day. But I also make sure not to lower my expectations because that is the biggest disservice to under-resourced students that exists. So as per the previous quote, those of us who have been given much are expected to give back to people and society in general. I give back in my own way each day in my work and personal life, both formally and informally. I model the behavior that I value, trying my best to walk the talk. I teach in an authoritative fashion without lowering standards. I conduct research with underserved populations and provide service to organizations that support underserved populations. I sponsor a scholarship for child development students at Sac State with high academic achievement and financial need. I assist students who are homeless, food insecure, and emotionally distressed by connecting them to the appropriate services. I write Own Voices children's literature for marginalized African American children, all children, actually. And as I obtain accomplishments, including this GSE Alumni Award, I help to rewrite the narrative about African American women. I change the story for children born to single parents in poverty. And by doing so, I lift our society as Americans. I make the world a better place for all people, especially those who are marginalized. So to end as I began, I want to thank God, also my husband Chris, and my son Manny, and everyone involved in helping me obtain this award. There are too many to name, but please know you are appreciated very much. As one of my Sac State colleagues told me, "Kimberly, you got this reward not so much for what you have done in the past, but for what you will continue to do in the future." So when I return to Sac State on Monday, I will continue to teach and nurture my students, continue my research with under-resourced and marginalized populations, and continue to provide professional and personal service. My work is not yet complete. In some ways, this is just a new beginning. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Kimberly. That was beautiful. That was beautiful. So now I'd like to introduce an alumni of a different sort. This is Linda Darling-Hammond. She's emeritus faculty, but I'm going to call her an alumni just so we can add her to the rolls. She's the Charles Ducoman Professor Emerita of Education. So she didn't recall the exact date she met Joyce King, just like you, Amado. So I'm just saying. So she said, but Linda says she's been learning from Joyce since 1982. And when Dr. King was a teacher educator at Santa Clara University. So both of them went on to serve as presidents of the American Educational Research Association. That's our premier professional organization. And they supported each other through the academic pipeline. Linda watched Joyce move that organization forward on its path towards concerns for equity. And Linda, here's to 40 years of friendship and fighting for better futures for our young people.
Well, I just want to say I don't remember when I first met Joyce, not because I am losing my memory, but because, although that might be part of a different narrative, but because we've known each other in so many contexts for so many years. I'm so delighted that she's being awarded this recognition. What Joyce embodies is the deep approach to inquiry and the creative spirit that is a hallmark of the Stanford School of Education graduates. Her contributions and accomplishments are so many, I'm not going to try to list them all in my 2 minutes of introduction. She actually comes here. She came running into the reception earlier from across the campus where she was participating in the Drop the Mic discussion, recalling the activism of 1968 on this campus, which she was a part of. And she has been a part of every piece of progression in the fight for justice in all of the years since. She was the Benjamin E. Mays Endowed Chair for Urban, she is the Benjamin E. Mays Endowed Chair for Urban Teaching, Learning and Leadership at Georgia State University. Benjamin Mays is a whole story in and of himself. She was provost at Spelman College. She's held a lot of other senior academic positions. But I came to know of her work when she was director of teacher education for 12 years at Santa Clara University, which first brought her into my consciousness. There she was one of the very first scholars to begin to define and help teachers learn to engage in what has since come to be called culturally responsive practice. And one of the things that she did was to engage students in a practicum experience in the community. Not in a school, but in a context where they could really come to know their students and the families without the status differentials, the superordinate, subordinate, schooling protocols that often set people into a different relationship with each other, to come to know their students and families in a deeper way. And I thought that was brilliant. As I was studying teacher education and trying to learn how to do it well, this is just one of the many things I learned from Joyce. She's an inventor, and she's continuously inquiring into how human beings, and certainly among them how teachers, can know each other more deeply. She's known for her work on preparing teachers for diversity and bringing culture and heritage knowledge into teaching and teacher education, as well as her emphasis on collaborative research methods. Among her many accomplishments creatively is her wonderful daughter, Yetunde Reeves. Where is Yetunde? There she is, who was a spectacular principal at East Palo Alto Academy before she said she needed to get back east, and much of her mother's wisdom accompanied her in that role. I want to say one thing about Joyce's path-breaking pedagogy, as well as one thing about her path-breaking research. In a piece published just last year in the International Journal of Qualitative Research, she riffs off of our current president's mantra. She never names him, she just calls him number 45, and his Make America Great theme, which she notes means Make America White Again. The title of her piece is Who Will Make America Great Again? Black people, of course. That also reprises Amiri Baraka's Who Will Survive America poem from 1968. But she reflects in this piece, and I recommend it to you, on her intellectual journey from the Black consciousness movement of the 1960s to her pedagogy teaching from a Black studies theoretical perspective on liberating knowledge. And one of the things that she talks about in this piece is that when she assigns work to her students, and I took another set of notes about this pedagogy from that article, when they do a class research project focused on the need for transformative, liberating curriculum knowledge for teachers, they are required to engage a community learning partner in their investigation. And this really is because of Joyce's commitment to the fact that knowledge resides not only in the university and in scholarly publications, but also with practitioners and with people who are living the problems we are examining. In that particular case, the student chose a friend from an inner city school in Texas, presented the project. The student commented after the project was presented, that all the Black people we read about are dead. And that's an issue when you're trying to create a generative sense of progress in the struggle. But Joyce is committed to ensuring that the ongoing justice struggles rest not on the stories of dead people, but on the work of people who are very much alive and working to change the status quo. So she is a prolific author. She pushes the edge of the envelope to challenge hegemony of all kinds. I want to give one story about her from the research perspective. One of the contributions was a landmark book she organized and edited for AERA. I still remember this like it was yesterday. Black Education, a transformative research and action agenda for the new century. I remember when she told me about it, and I said, wow, that sounds cutting edge for AERA. And I thought, well, that'll be interesting to see if she can do that. Well, it took a lot of perseverance and persuasion. She persuaded AERA to take on the project, which was unlike anything they had ever done before. Then she persuaded AERA to offer another grant to do a documentary film. Of course, she persuaded an amazing array of authors to contribute to the book, including myself, which I had no intention of doing because I was much too busy at the time. But of course, when Joyce asks, you have to say yes. Then she persuaded the Soros Foundation to provide a grant to produce an interactive CD-ROM that archives all the work of the commission as well as the symposia. This is pretty typical of Joyce. She is a force of nature and drives the field forward in the face of all manner of obstacles. I won't go into what was done in that book, but I will point out that she has more projects ongoing. We just communicated about one which will get girls of African ancestry in 4 countries to use their heritage knowledge, to develop heritage knowledge, and then use it to create culturally connected digital learning tools that are going to both enrich their own knowledge but also help their teachers build curriculum, which they will produce in multimedia form, and then establish a means to market that to others in the African diaspora. It's called From the Nile to the Niger to the Neighborhood. It's a tall order when you read about it, but not for Joyce. She is a marvel of ingenuity, energy, and creative purpose, and we here at the Stanford Graduate School of Education are rightfully proud of the work that she does. Thank you, Joyce.
Well, all that's true. As somebody said, oh, you're a celebrity. I said, at last. I have to acknowledge, I can't say a lot about everybody who's here. I thank all the people I invited, but I do want to acknowledge one of our elders, Warren Barber, I'm sorry, would you raise your hat so people can see you? Mr. Barber was a parent in East Palo Alto when I was an undergraduate, and Omawali and I used their home as ground zero for working with the young people and that struggle, and there's a whole story about that too. So thank you, Mr. Barber, for coming out. Mrs. Barber is ill. She couldn't come tonight. So we all are under time pressure with these little remarks. I studied with Sinclair Drake, and he used to go on and on and on, and I said, I'm not going to be like that. So I'm going to try to stick with my cards. When I came to Stanford from Stockton, California in 1965 as a freshman, this building did not exist. Saris, this building was constructed in 1972, 3 years after I graduated with honors from the sociology department and enrolled in the doctoral program in 1969 with the support of Elizabeth Cohen. When I came to the Graduate School of Education, James Brown, whose music I actually wrote about in my doctoral dissertation, was at the top of the R&B charts singing, "I don't want nobody to give me nothing, open up the door, I'll get it myself." I'd been active, as has been said, in the student movement that established African and Afro-American studies here, when students like me challenged the university to diversify the curriculum, the faculty, and the student body, and to prepare us more effectively to serve our communities. I was seeking solutions to what seemed to be the penultimate practical problem of education for liberation, not assimilation. This meant continuing to struggle for a relevant education, questioning prevailing cultural deficit theory in courses and sometimes in our professors' textbooks and their own research. A significant milestone was when Dean Arthur Coladarchi responded to my many complaints. He didn't say, go down the road to San Jose State and study social work, as I had been advised as an undergraduate. Rather, he suggested I should add an additional chapter to my dissertation, which I thought of at the time as punishment. But the dean's suggestion that I write a chapter about the Black sociology of knowledge actually helped me to turn my concerns about biased economic knowledge in the curriculum into rigorous intellectual inquiry from a Black perspective that was missing from the academy at that time. With such interest and support, I forged my identity as a scholar, teacher, and researcher committed to developing usable knowledge, often in partnership with community members. Remember, those were the heady days of confidence building, student-led movements for education transformation. I taught my first sociology courses as an undergraduate in the African American Studies program and at Nairobi College in East Palo Alto, using a critical interdisciplinary Black studies lens that was informed by global struggles for community self-determination. My dissertation research methodology innovatively engaged Ravenswood High School students, teachers, parents, and community members. The Graduate School of Education was a crucible of knowledge, a crossroads of on and off campus, local, and global relationships that nurtured my fierce passion for social change within a solid intellectual foundation. I had already been introduced to Paulo Freire's Pedagogy of the Oppressed, a clarion call for change. But here, I had the opportunity to study and work more deeply with people from Brazil who were part of that struggle. I also came to know Caribbean as well as African educators who were studying here, who shared their revolutionary thinking and experiences with us. Connected to Afro-Am, we paid attention to what was happening on the continent of Africa. From a revolutionary anti-colonial film of the era, the political slogan of the Mozambique independence movement became a watchword for some of us, "A luta continua." In Portuguese, the struggle continues. I've been collaborating with Brazilian and African educators since SIDEX students in my classes introduced me to their communities when I was on the faculty here in the 1980s. These experiences informed my work as Director of Teacher Education for 12 years at Santa Clara. Let me conclude by saying how deeply I appreciate this recognition for my career contributions. In 1973, when I finished my dissertation, Aretha Franklin's Ain't Nothing Like the Real Thing was at the top of the R&B charts. My son, Dr. Jabari Reeves, was 3 months old and flipped himself over for the first time just as I pulled the last pages of my thesis out of the typewriter. He's here tonight with his family and our 3 grandchildren. Where are you all, kids? All right. When my daughter, Dr. Yetunde Zola Reeves, was born in 1975, I was working as a research associate on a national urban and rural school development program here in the new Ceres building. My assignment, visiting Dayton, Ohio, East Chicago, East St. Louis, and Kankakee, Illinois, to help those communities improve the education of marginalized African American and Appalachian students. The OJs were singing, "You've got to give the people what they want." We're ready for a change. We know that education injustice, including curriculum trauma, continues. I hope this recognition of my contributions to excellence in education encourages all of you, all of y'all, that's what we say in Georgia, and others to change the curriculum for teachers and students, including graduate students and researchers, so that excellence in education is understood to mean Nibombe, know yourself, in the West African language of the Songhai people. That is, excellence through accurate academic knowledge and scholarship for inclusion and belonging for the sake of our humanity. A luta continua, and thank you.
Joyce, you are a force. Wow. Linda, you do not know what 2 minutes means. So now it's my great pleasure to introduce Martin Carnoy. He's the Vida Jacks Professor of Education and Economics and has been here at the GSE since 1969. So I think all of you may have taken a course with Martin at some point. You should have taken a course with Martin. So Martin is a labor economist with a special interest in the political economy of the educational system, but what he cares about most is his students. One of those students is Bernardo Naranjo. Close. Bernardo described his first meeting with Martin as love at first sight. Oh, Martin, thank you.
I've been here so long that I remember Joyce as a student. I think that she learned her revolutionary ideas in some part from our program. And to speak about that program, the GSE's international program, in that program we really hope always that our students will go back to their countries and dedicate themselves to improving the educational system and people's lives in their country. This is a lofty goal, and it isn't always realized, but many of our graduates have done exactly that. I'm really proud of the accomplishments of our program in preparing people to do that. And Bernardo Naranjo is one of the many, many GSE graduates from Mexico. In 1991, at the centennial of Stanford, the university, there was one celebration outside the United States, and that was in Mexico City. And a very high fraction of the graduates who came to that celebration, I remember it well, were graduates from the GSE. And they have been very, very active and great leaders in education, so much so that they were, and still are, known as the Stanford Mafia in Mexico. And they've done amazing things, both in research and in practice. Bernardo was a student here in the late 1990s and graduated in 2001. He went right back to Mexico, went to work with the premier educational and social services consulting group there, which had been formed by a former minister of education. And then he formed his own educational consulting group. And I have to say that I wasn't very pleased with that at the time, because I thought that he should keep working directly to move into the government. But unfortunately, his party did not win the elections. And so this was a very smart move on his part, because he used that consulting company, which he still does, as a means to work with the public sector directly to implant his vision of improving education into those states in Mexico that were ready to make real change. It was a rather brilliant idea to do this. And real change happened wherever Bernardo went. He helped students in the state of Puebla, where he lives, and it's one of the poorest states in Mexico. And he helped this state, the students in the state, to become the highest scoring students on the national test in the entire country. Now he has turned his sights to poor Sonora, which is now going to feel the effect of Bernardo's work. And already great things are happening in Sonora. These are remarkable accomplishments. It's a remarkable accomplishment for a single individual working with people in the state to actually turn the educational system of the state around. Bernardo brings all the skills he acquired at Stanford and combines them with his enormous charm and tenacity. Tenacity is very important. And his political savvy. He's a very quiet guy on the surface, but he's very, very clever politically. And he has achieved big-time effects that have major positive consequences for Mexico's tens of millions of young people. And you know, he's a relatively young guy. He's a young man, just starting out, just beginning, and just learning, really. I just watch him do it, learning how to do these things. And he's beginning to become really influential. He's just been elected to the board of basically the NCS of Mexico, the National Center of Educational Statistics of Mexico, which is very influential. Unlike our country and probably tomorrow Brazil, Mexico now has a progressive government, recently elected, and I'm thinking that Bernardo will be very influential on the educational system nationwide in Mexico. And I'm hoping that Bernardo will continue to expand his impact in this great country to the south. Bernardo?
Hola a todos. Good afternoon, everyone. First, very pleased to share this award with such great educators like Kim and Joyce. Congratulations. Great to meet you. And let me tell you that for many years, I dreamed about attending Stanford. I was extremely happy when the Graduate School of Education accepted me. I was even more happy when I finished my dissertation, believe me. But I really feel overwhelmed. And overwhelmed is probably the best word to describe how I feel with the way Stanford is telling me and my team that we're doing well. What did we do in Proyecto Educativo, which is our organization? What we did is we created a simple but effective education policy model focused on 3 objectives. Improving the attendance of children to school, helping them graduate, at least from high school, and ensuring they all learn the basic elements of the curriculum in Spanish and math. This model emphasizes the need to focalize the lowest performing schools in a small number that ensures that each one of them receives a significant help to their teachers, students, principals, and parents. This model helped the state of Puebla rank 28th out of 32 states in socioeconomic development to reach the top spot in academic performance nationwide in the last 3 years. By helping the lowest performing schools, we also increased dramatically not only the overall results of the state, but also the equity levels among schools. Other states had benefited from this model since then. But let me share with you things we've learned in these processes. First, the beauty of simplicity. Quite often we hear that complex models applied with academic rigor lead to efficiency. However, education programs need to have clear objectives and accurate, easy to understand messages to help everyone know what the program is about, why it is relevant, and what is each person's specific role on that. Second, the power of the small. In education policy, small-scale actions help achieve better results and build success stories that others may want to replicate. If properly focused on those schools, teachers, and students who need more help, we also increase equity. We have learned that equity is a matter of fairness, and that is enough reason to look for equity among most of us. However, we have discovered that this is also the fastest and most effective way to improve the overall quality of an education system. Third, the multiplying effect of teamwork. It is hard to align people and resources together, but this is how modest groups can achieve less modest results. And fourth, the need of emotions. Academic rigor is important to set objectives and define strategies, but passion is essential to reach them. People in education are not only looking for technical advice, they're also looking for leadership. We all need to remember constantly that helping others learn and grow as human beings is the most beautiful activity on earth. I am enormously grateful to the Stanford faculty. Professors Cohen, Levin, March, McDermott, Ramirez, Shavelson, and some others increased my curiosity and helped me open my perspectives. Martin Carnoy taught me essential aspects of an educator. He might be a permanent reference for ministers and scholars throughout Latin America and many other countries in the world. But he's always the one visiting schools and talking to teachers as a basis to build solid policies and strategies. I'm also grateful to the people who has shared with me the privilege of serving education. And special thanks to Adriana, Arturo, Fernando, and Luis for building a project in permanent transformation. Thank you all guys, they are already here. And also for being a testimony that we love what we do. Thanks also to Lucrecia, Patricia, Antonio, Jorge, and Ernesto for the confidence and support on everything we do. The strongest support and inspiration, however, comes always from home. And here with me are Maria Esther and five noisy guys that are not making any noise. I'm worried about it. But they give life meaning, purpose, and more than anything else, joy. I thank also my parents, Jorge, who's here with us, and Teresa, who didn't make it tonight because of health issues, and whose permanent love and support. They both are experts in the art of teaching by the example and being always close. And I want to thank also especially to all the people organizing this event and this entire world, because if you wanted to make us feel special, you damn did. Thank you very much to all of you. And I'm so happy tonight that I could even thank my mother-in-law, but you know. Okay, some faces coming from my wife now. But let me finish by saying that I feel more proud than ever for being part of this institution. This school could reward the many world-class academics who graduated from here, or that people in relevant positions worldwide, or those who have succeeded in economic terms. But you chose to reward service and impact to improve lives. And I couldn't be more, I could not agree more that, because that is what the School of Education is all about. That is what education is all about, and that is what life is all about. Thank you very much for that.
So I told you, right? How amazing are they? How amazing are we that they're with us? It's really wonderful. So as we end the evening, I want to encourage all of you to look for ways to identify and celebrate and support excellence in education. It's all around us. It's all around and in you as well. We hope tonight inspired you as much as it continues to inspire our work here at the school. So with that, I will ask you to please enjoy refreshments out in the lobby, and we all look forward to shaking one another's hands. So thank you again. Have a great evening.